Hi, this is Sanjay Gangal from EDA Cafe. I'm here with Stephen DiFranco, Head of Marketing and Ecosystem Partnerships at Rapidus. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. First of all, tell us about Rapidus.
So, a few years ago, we started on an endeavor to build a next generation 2 nanometer advanced foundry, Rapidus Foundry, which is an advanced manufacturing foundry, is based in Hokkaido, Japan, the North Island of Japan. And that foundry is nearing completion now. The EUV tools being installed as we speak. We'll go into test chips later this year. And the industry is very excited about having a new player in both the foundry world for 2 nanometer logic chips, as well as packaging, which we'll be doing on site as well.
Okay, and how will this fab differ from other advanced foundries?
It's a really interesting story behind this. So Kyoku-san, who is our president and one of the founders of Rapidus, actually started talking about what the future foundries might look like a number of years ago, long before he started Rapidus. And some of the ideas that he had that were important were that how could you actually capture more data during the process of bringing up a new chip? How can you provide more service to your client by bringing that chip up faster? How can you make a foundry operate more efficiently? So a couple of three really interesting areas that he focused on that are the core of how our integrated manufacturing center, which we call EAM, operates is one is we'll be a single wafer foundry. So most foundries are batch foundries. So you'll put 25 wafers in a batch, you'll run those through. So if you want to make a change to that, you're making a change to all 25 wafers. Now that's when you're doing projects that have high volume, doing batch manufacturing makes a lot of sense. But as we move into the world of AI, we're going to see a lot more chips with smaller batches and each smaller number of units on each chip, smaller number of wafers for each project. So we've got to be able to build a foundry that can be much more flexible and ramp faster. To do that, you got to capture data more quickly. Single wafer process allows you to make changes on every single wafer that goes through. And that improves the amount of data you collect and the speed that you can ramp to volume. Another really interesting thing is if you think about how foundries, and you've seen pictures of them work, they shuttle around these batches on these rails. And those rails have very specific pathways to them. But they also creates bottlenecks, as you can imagine. So in EAM, for the Rapidus new foundry, we're actually going to be using a grid transport mechanism so that we can program each of our wafers to move wherever it needs to go next into the foundry as quickly as possible. So that'll allow us to run more projects simultaneously in the foundry. And third, packaging will be on site. So those customers who want us to do both wafer and packaging, advanced 2.5 and 3D packaging, we can do them both on site, which is going to eliminate transportation time and complexity. So customers can come to us with their designs, and we can send back finished product.
And have you run any test chips so far through the foundry?
So the foundry EAM is now being finished. We just recently received the EUV from ASML, and that's been going through installation now. Test chips will begin in 2025. We'll start doing small batch manufacturing in 26 and full volume in 27.
Okay, and when you get to full volume, what is the capacity of this fab in terms of what is the number of wafers? Since the size of chips can be different, and you can put different number of chips on a wafer, but I'm assuming these are like 12-inch wafers. How many wafers can you process in a month or a year?
We are a 12-inch foundry. We're actually a foundry that's being built as an expansive foundry, so over time we'll be able to do more and more, and we'll announce capacities later in the year.
Okay. And why is Japan refocused on semiconductor manufacturing now?
It's a really interesting question and an important question. Japan has been the center of a lot of technological development. I spent a good part of my career at Sony. Um, and over the last 20 or so years, um, semiconductors have not been a focus. But we're seeing semiconductor manufacturing hasn't been a focus. But what we're seeing around the world are countries, the United States being one of them, Germany being another, now Japan, saying having foundries in country is part of our our industrial objective. It's one of the industries that we want to have here and to be able to encourage and sponsor more technological development. One of the reasons the foundry was put in Hokkaido on the North Island was there's a number of very good universities on the North Island. It's well known for skiing and sports, and but it actually is a great center of engineering students, and yet we didn't have a foundry there. So now we actually have an industrial infrastructure that we can now take great leverage the great educational opportunities that are happening and match that with now what will be, we believe, an expanding technology center on the North Island of Japan.
And in general, a semiconductor fab needs a lot of ecosystem partners. And is Japan suited, or does it already have the needed ecosystem partners to make a successful fab?
A fab does need a lot of ecosystem partners. Any industry does. And one of the reasons that it was decided to put Rapidus Design Solutions, our commercial entity here in the United States, was a great number of those ecosystem partners are here in the United States, specifically here in Silicon Valley, which is where we based our commercial center. So our sales, our marketing, our ecosystem operations are all here in the United States. And that's where we're building our ecosystem network from.
Okay. And will Rapidus focus on customers outside of Japan?
Very much so. We are in our complete objective is to look at the marketplace, global marketplace, very holistically. We're already talking to potential customers in many different countries. The foundry is going to be in Japan, but our commercial reach is global.
Okay. And 2024 was an important year for Rapidus. What were the milestones that the company was most proud of?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, because I think sometimes we forget to take a moment to look at what we've been able to achieve before we look at what we have to get done. Rapidus broke ground on this foundry less than 24 months ago, and it's going to be in just a few months doing its first test chips. That is a phenomenal timeline to build a modern, complex foundry. And I think that is one of the great milestones we had of 2024. Another is, if you think about it, we think of foundries as these huge buildings and very complex technologies, but they're also manned by a large staff of engineers, all of which have to be recruited, trained, and integrated into the operating designs of the system of the foundry. We have been able to get great talent around the world to come to be trained with our partner IBM in Albany on the new silicon technologies, and now to be moving back to Japan. Many of these engineers will move back both here to California or to Japan to start the good work of working on behalf of our customers. And I think one of the last really important pieces was this idea of doing both packaging and foundry wafer manufacturing in the same facility. And we've started to see that from some of the other foundry companies as well, but we're starting to see the supply chain get closer together. Because really, when you look at our customers, they don't want to have complete teams having to have expertise on both. How do I work with a foundry? How do I work with a packaging company? There'll still be tons of independent packaging companies. We'll work with all of them as well. But there are certainly a lot of customers who are now asking for both of those things to be put together. And I think that was a big milestone of us building a facility that can do both wafer foundry and advanced 3D packaging.
So, for any new chip to be made right now in today's world, there are three major companies whose software is primarily used to design chips. One is Synopsys, other is Cadence, the third is Siemens. And I saw you make a couple of announcements with Synopsys and Cadence last month. Siemens was missing. So want to get your take on what are you partnering with Synopsys and Cadence for, and how come Siemens is missing?
We are working through the design houses based on who have the most amount of customers and which customers need whom. So that's really, there's no great plan of which design tools we're going with first, second, and third. Our intention is to work with all of them. But there is an important aspect to this that I think gets sometimes missed. In a foundry that is designed to continuously collect more and more data and to use that data to help bring those wafers up ramp to volume faster. Another output of that is that data can become very valuable to the tool companies. So we spend a lot of time in our industry, in all parts of our industry, talking about designing for manufacturing. And that's been a term that's been around, coined back in the Deming era in the 1960s. But we never talk about manufacturing for design. We never talk about taking the learnings from that manufacturing and helping the design tools advance. And in both the cases of Synopsys and Cadence, they've become very interested in that, as you know. They consider that an important piece, that their tools are constantly getting smarter and smarter and more tuned to the foundries that you're designing for, the node you're designing for, the packaging you're designing for. And that's a big part of what we're doing at EAM in the Rapidus Foundry, is feeding information back to the tool companies so they can continue to tune their tools so that designers can design not just faster, but better, and design more aligned to what a foundry can do and allow us to ramp to volume faster. And that ramp to volume faster as you get to 2 nanometers, where cost of masks are very high, cost of wafers are very high. You made a point earlier on, as you look into AI chips and chiplets, you're going to see the number of chips per wafer actually, go down because the chip sizes are getting bigger, right? So yields become super critical more than ever before. So it's very important that we help the tool companies make the best tools they can. We make our foundry produce as much information as possible to help the designers. That designer to foundry relationship, I think, is going to become really critical as we move to these next generation of AI chips and beyond.
Okay, and what is Rapidus most looking forward to for 2025?
Well, we've got a lot of big milestones to hit. We're going to be doing our first test chips in 2025. We are going to be spending a lot of time, my team and the sales organization, out with both ecosystem partners and customers. We're looking forward to launching the foundry officially. This is going to be a really exciting year for us. And then, of course, 26 is even better, because then we start bringing our first customers into the foundry and start ramping up volume.
Okay. And I also saw a January announcement from Rapidus about PFN, Rapidus, and Sakura Internet Reach Basic Agreement toward Japan-made AI infrastructure for greener society. So what exactly is that announcement about?
So, I think you're going to see a number of these announcements where we're starting to work with a number of different customers and partners on how to bring more and more intelligence into the foundry and how to have the foundry give more intelligence out. The whole point of Rapidus's EAM Foundry is to make a foundry that is more interconnected with the ecosystem that supports it. Making another foundry is important because the industry needs more capacity, don't see ourselves as so much competitors with other foundries as adding the capacity the industry needs. But if you're going to add that capacity, you should do it in a way that really advances your industry. And these are some of the agreements that we think will advance the industry as we interconnect ourselves with the ecosystem more closely.
Okay, and what is the best way for our audience to find out more about Rapidus on the internet?
So we're going to ask you to put up the URL for Rapidus. So it's rapidus.inc, and that'll get you to either the Japanese or English versions of the website. Also, you'll be providing my email address. You can get to me. I'll be happy to help anybody that's looking for information about Rapidus. And over the next number of months, I think you'll hear more and more about what we're doing.
Okay. And Stephen, is it okay if I ask you a couple of personal questions?
Oh, okay. As long as they're not too personal, go for
it. What do you do for fun outside work, or what is your personal passion?
So most people know I'm a big cyclist, and that's and I've been very fortunate to had the opportunity to work here in Northern California, where we have some of the best cycling in the world. So that is my passion. I love that. And my wife often says that my dearest possession is my bicycle. So.
and is it road bike, mountain bike?
Both. Although I do mostly road biking because, obviously it's mountain biking can take a bit more of a wear and tear on you. But I've had to move to a battery supported mountain bike. I've gotten to that age. But I'm still running a real road bike, so mostly road bike.
And what are your real go-to biking trails in Bay Area?
So I think probably if you looked at my Strava, you're going to see me up and down Kings, over Skyline, up and down Page Mill. But I think one of the things that we have here, one of the fun and hard rides, is to take your bike up Mount Hamilton, the road up to Mount Hamilton, which is our observatory. And, that's 4 hours of just climbing. It's it's a lot of hill for a long time. You can pull that off. You can ride just about anywhere.
That is true. That's true. I tried. I couldn't do it.
Hamilton? Get a battery assisted bike. I mean, we all have to accept we're going there. It's where we're all going.
Yeah. And Stephen, can you also share something about yourself that most people at Rapidus who work with you don't know about you?
Well, I think what most people may not know is I actually started my career as in product management at Sony, and which was really exciting because it was a company that had a lot of different business units. And I got to work on both consumer and commercial products, including working on the launch. And the reason I got to California was to work on the launch of high definition television for both your home and for broadcasting. So I often say is if your wife is yelling at you for having too big of a flat screen TV, that's partially my fault. And I helped make that happen a little bit. But those are exciting times here in the Valley. A lot of that work got done both in Japan and here in Silicon Valley. Most people don't know that, but we did a lot of the early work on higher definition and widescreen television right here on Zanka Road in San Jose.
Okay. And final question, Stephen: cats or dogs?
Cat or dog? Well, I have both because I have two grown daughters who, as they were growing up, insisted we have both. So my routine is when I'm home is I usually get about 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, and the cat is sitting there purring, waiting for its breakfast. The dog is much easier, I will tell you. The dog waits till I get back from the gym. The dog will sleep in, but the cat's first thing in the morning. That's usually who greets me when I wake up.
And how old are the cats and dog?
Our cat's 17. It was a really interesting story. We were playing with the kids in the front lawn, and this little young cat wandered by, and I pleaded with the girls not to give it any milk. And of course, I lost that battle. And that cat has not left since. It's been about 17 years.
Wow,
And yeah, and we picked up a rescue puppy 5 years ago, which is a mix of everything you could imagine. And she's just the funniest looking dog, but she's she's wonderful. It's nice to have pets in the house.
that's true. That's true.
They
Well,
make it
thank you
better.
so much, Stephen, for taking
So
time
let
to
me ask
record
you
this
a
interview.
personal question. What's the
Sure.
the history behind the elephant?
Hmm?
The history
No,
behind the elephant.
so my daughter got into elephant, and if you go to her room, everything is elephant. So she has a big collection of different types of elephants, posters, and trinkets, and what do you call the Christmas ornaments, and uh, the globes, snow globes type
Oh,
thing.
globes.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, she's totally into elephants.
Yeah. It looks good. Well, it frames your picture very well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen, for taking time to record this interview. Have a great day and stay safe.
You well. Be well. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, this is Sanjay Gangal from EDA Cafe.